Hey everybody. For those of you who have no idea who I am, I am Ray. I am one of the people who runs the Dinner and a Game page. Actually, I don't really run it. My wife runs it. She's the one who does all the work. All I do is occasionally I post up some memes that I think are cool. I comment on y'all stuff, and I basically don't do. I'm not in charge of the Facebook group. My wife is. She's amazing. I am the guy who is supposed to be producing content for you guys to watch. I'm supposed to be producing the RPG side of Dinner and a Game. I am the main GM for Dinner and a Game, and for those of you who did watch our previous shows, I'm the guy you recognize me. I'm the back guy behind the camera all the time, and I'm the one who runs all the games on Dinner and a Games that Dinner and a Game produced previously. Both when we were in San Antonio and we had the audio only version, and then when we moved to Houston and we set it up the streaming version there, I'm the guy who basically everyone was either happy with or pissed off at. But what I wanted to come on to do is let you guys know what's been going on with us. We had a lot of problems happen. The usual things that can go wrong in life and cause you to have to do what we did, which is we had to move. We didn't. We were okay. We are okay. We lost a lot, but obviously, as you can tell by all the trash around me, because we just moved into a new place. We moved. We basically lost a lot, but because we had a safe place to go, we were fine. We had to make some sacrifices, and one of those sacrifices was moving away from Houston. For those of you who didn't know, we lived in Houston for a number of years. Harvey came along. We lost everything. We moved back to San Antonio because my parents had a rental house there, in San Antonio, Texas. And that's when we decided, because I was basically looking for a job and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do, we decided we'd do a D&D podcast just to keep ourselves entertained and because I've always wanted to try it. We found a great group of gamers in San Antonio. We started the podcast. Everything went great. It was wonderful. We ended up having like 4 shows. It was really, really cool. But then I finally found a job. And it was, well, I had a job at that time, but I finally found a job back in my career field. And that job was back in Houston. So we packed up, and we wanted to go back to Houston anyway. We loved Houston. We love Houston. And so we packed up and moved back to Houston. And the show went down for a while. But we already knew people in Houston because we lived there, like I said, for 7-8 years. And we came back to Houston and we made connections with our old gaming friends, and we started a new show. But this time, we went to streaming. We started streaming shows, and it went fairly okay. I learned a lot, but the games themselves were great. I'm talking about the equipment and technical side was fairly okay. The games themselves were great, and we had a great time doing it. We had a great cast. Everything was going amazingly well, and unfortunately, the real world came back and bit us again. The usual horrible stuff happened. Don't want to go into it really in depth, but we lost our ability to stay in Houston and we had to relocate quickly. We moved in with family, spent about 3 months. My family is amazing. They took us in. It was incredible, but it was hard. And during that time, we could not do any type of gaming whatsoever. We were just stuck. But that's the sacrifices you make when you get in those situations. You have to make those choices, and we did. But we also had to give up that amazing cast in Houston. Since then, we're now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's where my family was. And we have stayed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for 2 main reasons. Number one, my parents are older, and they need help, so we wanted to be relatively nearby. Number 2, the job I'm working at now, it may cause me to travel a bit. And it may even cause us to move eventually. Because of those 2 key factors, we have decided to change how the show is formatted. we've always tried to do everyone at the table. That's why we call it a dinner and a game. Um, Dinner and a game is all about that camaraderie of gathering around a table to play an RPG together. You always have, people show up with, junk food, their snacks, and everything like that. But we turn it into something else in our house. Every Saturday, we would have people come over to our house to play RPGs. And every Saturday, Jessica or I would cook. And I'm not talking, like, oh, we'll throw something on. I'm talking about slow cooker all day chili. I'm talking about smoked brisket for hours. I'm talking about Hawaiian hot dogs and burgers. We would come up with elaborate meals to feed the crew, and it's because it's something we like to do. So when we were thinking about what we would want to call our show, dinner and a game, Jessica was like, "Just call it dinner and a game. That's what we always done." So that's what we are doing. So, but now that we're looking at this situation, the pandemic, COVID-19 has changed the world for all of us. So now we're looking at changing the way dinner and a game is formatted, and that means going fully digital. So because of that, we're looking at restarting the shows again. Now, a lot of our gamers in Houston are probably not going to be coming back anytime soon. They're all dealing with the reality that we're in now. So if they do come back, we will welcome them with open arms. But everyone is dealing with this reality, and we have to respect everyone in this situation. And we love them all, but they need to take care of themselves first, and we are going to respect that. So we are starting over almost from scratch. When we started getting everything up and running, we reached out to as many old gamers as we knew. Some of those being some of our old San Antonio crew. And they were more than willing to come back. And we were very happy to have them. But we did discover something. This was what we discovered actually when we were doing the live streaming. We were doing live streaming like one show every 2 weeks usually. I mean, we played almost every single weekend, and we kind of structured it to schedule games every other weekend because it's very hard for us to actually get people together every single weekend for a game. Because people have real lives. So we try to do that for our gamers. But the fans didn't like it very much. So what we're going to... That was the biggest complaint we got. I mean, hi guys. You're the 5,000 plus of you. You're technically our fans. I mean, there was nothing really to watch right now, but you're technically our fans. But the 30 or 40 of you who actually watch the show on a regular basis, the main feedback we got from the people who spent that time just to be with us, the main feedback we got from them was the inconsistency of the scheduling of the show was kind of bothersome. Now, I thought it was not going to be a problem because we literally were producing 4-hour shows. But these folks, you guys wanted to see this show on a weekly basis. So what we're trying now is we're going to try and do some weekly scheduling. I am not going to say it's going to work because that was the biggest issue we've always had with keeping gamers around, is getting them to stick out every single week. That's a lot to ask. So one of the format changes is going all digital. We're going to be producing all the games digitally. We're probably not going to... We may be bringing in some in-house gaming again once the COVID scare goes down. Those of you who don't know, my wife is immunocompromised. I am technically immunocompromised. So we have that respect that we need to protect ourselves and our fellow gamers. So we're looking at basically trying to keep that safety as our highest priority. So what we're going to be looking at is going over digital format for the most part. And we're going to be looking at changing the format of the shows around from just being all about D&D to expanding and going back to our roots. We originally started this as a way to... Hi, Kitty. We really started this as a way for us to put a spotlight on a lot of indie games. A lot of games that don't get a lot of the limelight because D&D is the big boss. And that's true. I mean, D&D is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I grew up with D&D. I started playing when I was 11, and I'm coming up on 50. So yeah, it's I love D&D. It is the reason that we have this wonderful hobby. But that being said, there are a hell of a lot of games out there, and we want to give them some limelight. So the first new game we're going to be doing is Monster of the Week. That game is going to be starting out on, well, actually, this Saturday, which would be Saturday the 6th, I do believe, we're going to have a non streamed session where we're going to be setting up the cameras and working everything out. And we're going to be doing some of the little prep stuff you need to do for Monster of the Week. Monster of the Week, by the way, is a game produced by Evil Hat Productions, and it's written by Michael Sands. Well, the first book was. The second book, Monster of the Week: Tomb of Mysteries, was written by a number of authors. One of them is Aaron, a friend of the show, and Aaron Burkett. He is also in the Minion Network, which is a sister show of ours. Great guys. They're one of their GMs over there. He's an amazing GM. But anyway, Aaron was one of the co-writers of Tomb of Mysteries, and this game system is basically, the way I like to describe Monster of the Week is, take Supernatural, X-Files, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Scooby-Doo, and throw it all together. And that's Monster of the Week. It's supposed to be a horror, and it definitely can be. But I usually end up making it almost be a superhero save the world type thing. But anyway, the big thing about Monster of the Week is it's a very rules light system that is heavily character driven. During the character creation process, you tie your character to at least 2 other characters during the character creation process, which is why we're going to do a session 0, which is going to happen on the 13th, I think. Yeah, the 13th of June. And that session is going to be about us making characters. It's going to be about us building out the characters and building out the world and everything we're going to play in. I already have an idea for the meta level for the plot, but I always wait until the characters are made and we see the first interactions before we start actually throwing the real hooks in. So that's going to be happening. That's our first show. And for that show, we have booked 4 returning players. Jessica, of course, Elise, and Jonathan. Both of them were in the San Antonio game. Amber was one of the latecomers of the San Antonio games. She played in the vampire game that only ran a few sessions. I don't even know if we ever produced it actually produced it on the podcast. But so those are the 4 players that are coming back. Amber's son Alex is also going to be joining us, and he is going to be playing with us. He is going to be first time with us, and I've met Alex before, and my wife has actually run for Alex before, and he comes highly recommended. So we're looking forward to getting all that set up and going. Now, as we're launching this out, we're going to be doing more than just Monster of the Week and more than just one show. What I'm looking at is to get several shows going. The reason for that is I want to produce shows, at least 3-4 nights a week, and then I want you all to be able to have that content available. The tabletop RPGs are my passion, and I love running them, and I feel great when I run them, so I want to do them as often as possible. But that being said, that means I need cast for at least 2 more shows. One of the other shows is going to be Deadlands. Deadlands is a RPG set in the Wild West, but it's an alternate Wild West where magic is real and there's like steampunk-esque type stylings. But there's mad scientists, there's Indian shamans, the works. And there is also, Cthulhu. So it's kind of a Western horror fantasy-esque. There are 2 different systems. There's the old Deadlands system. There's 3 different systems. There's the old Deadlands system, there's the D20 system, and then there is the Savage Worlds Deadlands version. We're going to be using the Savage Worlds Deadlands version, but we did back the new Deadlands Kickstarter, which is basically bringing back the old Deadlands, revising it, and bringing it up to date and republishing it. So what we're hoping to do is run Savage Worlds until Deadlands, the new Kickstarter, comes out, and then converting over to that. So that being said, we're going to need cast for that. We're also going to be running D&D. We're going to be running a D&D games that are going to be basically based around a world that I've created. It's not completely built out yet, but that's okay. I have the framework, I have the structure, I know what the world's going to consist of, I know what I'm looking at and where we're going at with that. It's just the, well, it's the minutia, which is, of course, the hardest part. So we're going to be running a D&D game that's going to be building out this world. I'm not going to put other details about the world yet. That'll be for the players who come into it, but I am going to be looking for players for that as well. We are going to be doing this, all of this, within the next several months. We're going to be recruiting for cast and getting the game started all the next couple of months. What we really want from new cast members is a very heavy focus on storytelling, no matter what the mechanic is we're playing under. Whether it's D20, Savage Worlds, Monster of the Week, the focus is on character building, story, and story above everything else. Mechanics are great. They give us a way to express action in a way that has meaning and focus, but in the end, all we're looking at is story. That's just the way I run. That's the way I like my players to be happy with. If you feel that you would be happy in that situation and you have experience gaming or no experience at all, we want to speak to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some links in the end of this video, in the comment section below or the comment section above, depending on where you see this, YouTube, wherever. But we're going to put some links in there. And those links are going to be basically based around giving you contacts to reach me, to reach us at Dinner and a Game. And we're going to get those links sent out to you with this video. And if you feel that you want to try this, we are willing to speak to just about anyone. There is going to be, it's not an audition, but you're all going to have to play in a couple of game sessions with us. We want to make sure that we get along. We want to make sure that you get along with each other. There is a couple of stipulations, and I'm going to list these out real quick because if you've been a member of Dinner and a Game for any length of time, you probably already know them. Dinner and a Game is very inclusive, and we support the LGBT community. We support everyone except for people who like to preach hatred. If you have any problems with the LGBTQ community, if you have any problems with interracial marriage or anything odd like that, don't bother. We're not going to want to speak to you. It's not going to work. You can have conservative viewpoints all you want. We're just not going to be compatible. And the key thing is, since we're going to be spending so much time together, we all need to be able to stand being around each other that much. We don't speak to politics much on our page. We want this to be an escape, but we also don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I say that with the upper lip because, I want to be comfortable too. And so we want to make sure that people who come on here are okay with being part of this group. And that's very important. That should always be important to any RPG group. Inclusivity goes only so far. If you're trying to include someone who has no respect for you, then it's not going to work. So we just want to make sure that we all have respect for each other and respect each other's viewpoints. That doesn't mean tolerating each other's viewpoints. That means literally respecting them. I mean, if you guys come on here and, that's, your views, that's great. But if you guys come on here and you want to express those views in a fashion that hurts or takes away from others, it's not. So, but that's enough of that. We want to make sure that we get along. That's the main issue. So if you are willing and able and want to be considered, it's the email list links are going to be down below. You can also find us at the Facebook page and contact us through Facebook. And you can find us at www.dinnerandagame.net. And we're also on Twitter. We'll put all the links to all the contacts down below. But one of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to be launching our Patreon. The Patreon is mainly focused on one factor. If we're going to ask people to game every single week, well, two factors. One, we want to offset the costs of keeping up with the show. As you all know, it's not free to host this. It's not free to, store all these hours and hours of video. Well, technically it is, but you know what I mean. It's not free to host the website and everything like that. So we are going to try and help ourselves out with some of these costs by launching a Patreon. The Patreon has multiple rewards already built in. We've already got them lined out. We're going to be including swag. We're going to be opening up a Discord for the fans of the show to interact with cast and to interact with each other. And then we're also going to be having more swag, like shirts like this one. We always say UFC at the table with the crest, with a shield logo on back, and the dinner plates on front, and the dinner plates on back with the website. We're also we have coffee mugs. We have all kinds of merchandise already set up. We actually have a store built out that we've never really done anything with, because I wanted to make sure we had a level of quality to the show and an amount of content for the show that would be something that I could say, and yes, you can support the show by buying these items or by supporting this Patreon, and we can produce more because you like it. So what we want to do is we want to launch the Patreon to help offset the costs, and we found one other thing we want to do, and that is, hopefully, if everything goes well, incentivize the show for the cast members. I'm not talking massive incentives. I'm talking, if you're going to sacrifice 4 hours a week to be with us, I'm going to try and get you something back for that in some way. We'll be talking about that with cast members, but it all depends on the Patreon. If the Patreon goes well, then we can talk about that. If not, we will talk about something else. But anyway, one thing else we're going to be doing. Sorry, I know this is really long. We're going to be starting to do interviews, both in the geek and gaming community with influencers in the community, and with people like John Wick, Michael Sands. There's people we've already reached out to, and they have been positive about coming on and talking about different subjects and giving interviews. John Wick is a major game producer in our hobby. Michael Sands wrote Monster of the Week. We are also looking at getting some contacts with other gaming producing companies, getting interviews, seeing what the latest products coming out, trying to get them to give us reviews, and so we can actually get some content out there for you that is also outside of the normal gaming, the normal content of tabletop gaming and RPGs. We're also going to try and get more interviews with the video game side. We're going to start doing some reviews of video games and reviews of video game producers. And finally, we may be doing cooking videos, because we're taking away the dinner aspect of dinner and a game on this side of it, on the actual play side of it. We're going to try and replace that by developing recipes and cooking recipes and creating the videos for cooking those recipes that are going to be designed to feed your gaming table. Now, that's something we just started talking about, and we got to figure out how to do that. But we're going to look into it, and we really want to do it because it seems to be something that would really add a little incentive and a little more to that. And we know there's other shows that do it, but it's just our way of trying to contribute back. But anyway, this has gone really longer than I thought it was going to go. It took us several tries too, so But this is basically where we're going, and we want you to come along with us. And some of you may even become part of the family in a bigger way. But that's what we wanted to do and what we want to tell you about. We're moving forward as much as we're moving in different geographical regions. We're going to also, when the conventions start back up, hopefully we're going to be in attendance. But we all really want to make this the best experience for all of us, you and us. And I think that we are taking steps that can help make that happen. And if you guys have any suggestions, comments, anything like that, please feel free to send them in. You can always contact us on Facebook. Like I said, the contact links will be here as well. And we want you to feel like you always have a seat at the table with dinner and a game. So Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you on Saturdays at least for now.